Ashlyn, and you may have seen some of my like studying or reading time lapses over on TikTok. And about 10 people on TikTok asked me to make a YouTube channel, and so I did. And here we are. Since it's July 1st, I figured why not do a July reading recap and book review. Since I read 11 books this month, it seemed like a good video idea, I think. It's probably gonna be pretty boring with me just sitting here talking about books, but that's fine. I figured we would just go top to bottom and see, because I don't remember exactly which order I read these in, so we're just gonna start at the top. Okay, the last book I read this month was The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and this is easily one of my favorite books now. Top 5, literally, like, I think this was my second or third, like, 5-star read of the year. That's a lie. It was, like, my 5th. I'm not good at analyzing books, so almost everything is 5 stars for me. But this is the first book I've read of this genre. I don't even know what genre this would be. Fiction, coming of age. I couldn't tell you. Loved it. Amazing. Loved Charlie. No pun intended there. But no, this is an amazing read. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I think it's very relatable for a lot of people. No notes, no comments. Okay. Oh, and that was written by Stephen Chbosky. So, first book, Perks of Being a Wallflower, Stephen Chbosky, 5 stars, no notes. One of my top 5 books, easily. I don't know how to say this last name. The first name is Marie. Okay, this is where it ends. This book is about a school shooting. It takes place in the time span of like 50 minutes, an hour tops. The entire book takes place in 1 hour. And it's from the perspective of, I think, 5 different characters, and they're all connected in different ways. This book, I'd say it's average. 4 stars, 3 stars, 3.5. I'd say 3.5 stars. The writing was good. There's nothing wrong with the writing. I don't know. Something was missing here for me. I did cry at the end. It has a sad ending. And, oh, by the way, there are going to be spoilers. I'm sorry. I'm talking about the book, so I'm going to spoil them. I already can't remember her name. This book just wasn't very memorable to me. I think the character is Claire, the ballerina. When she got shot at the end in her leg, that really broke my heart. So it was a sad book, but it was also like, okay, why does everyone have such a traumatic life? Like, not a single person in this book was happy before the shooting. I can't imagine after the shooting. Nonetheless, it was a great book. I would definitely recommend to read it, but I don't see myself rereading it, you know? So, 3.5 stars, this is where it ends. We Were Liars. Okay, so I originally got this because it was so huge on TikTok. It still is. I've heard amazing things nonstop. I read this book in one sitting, and not because it was good, because I wanted to get it over with. This book is by E. Lockhart. I think I have another book by them somewhere, but I was just so underwhelmed by this. I mean, it's a good thriller. The ending was great. But the first 150 pages of this book were so miserable for me to read. I was so bored. I didn't understand what this had to do with the storyline. I was like, okay, when are we gonna get to the plot? And then we got to the plot and I was like, okay, but what's happening? But like, why are we beating around the bush? Get to it. So I would rate this 3 stars at most. It's not a bad book. It's not badly written. But also, there's no point in reading it. If you want a good thriller or mystery or plot twist, there's books with a great plot twist where half the book isn't boring. I'm sorry. Like, I was just so bored reading this. The entire time I was reading this, I was like, okay, when's it going to be done? When is something going to happen? When are we going to get to the point? When is anything going to happen at all? And I was like, the end is good. You know, like, oh, they were actually all dead. She set a fire. Okay, book's over. Like, feel like I just wasted my time for... It's not an average ending. Thought behind it was good. It's a good idea. But also, there are so many other thriller authors and mysteries that have a great plot twist or a great ending, but the entire book is great from first page to last. So, this is not a book I would ever reread, and I don't see myself recommending this to anyone. Like, this is where it ends. I said it was an average book, but if someone's like, oh, what's a really sad book I can read? Here you go. Here's a sad book. If someone asks, oh, what's a great thriller or mystery? I'm not recommending this. I've never recommended this. I'm sorry. Like, I was bored. But now we're getting into some books that I love. So, What We Did to Survive by Megan Lawley. I love Megan Lawley. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I read her first book, That's Not My Name. It was great. This is an example of I was interested from beginning to end. Even the first 3 chapters before the actual storyline started and it was just building up and backstory, I was intrigued. I was hooked. This book gave me genuine anxiety. I'm medicated for anxiety, and this bypassed my medicine and stressed me out from beginning to end. And it just had one of those endings where, oh, he was dead all along, like We Were Liars. So both of these books have a plot line where where you see characters talking throughout the story, but turns out they were dead the whole time. This book did it correctly, because I look back at, as soon as they were like, no, I killed him. He was never here. I thought back, I was like, oh my God, that's why this, and this. Everything started coming together. With We Were Liars, it was like, oh, they were dead. I was like, okay, that makes no sense. That doesn't make any sense as to how they were dead the whole time. Because in What We Did to Survive, I was like, why is this man not helping? Why isn't he doing anything? Where is he? He won't pick anything up. Why is she carrying her to the water instead of her own brother? Something's not making sense here. Yeah. But this book, I was like, okay, how's there trash everywhere and all the food is finished and all of these things? How did they drive the boat if they were never actually there? So I don't know. This was just an example of oh, they were dead all along. Okay, then act like it. I don't know. Maybe I actually don't like this book at all. Every time I talk about it, I get a little bit irritated. Every time someone brings it up, I get a little upset. But Megan Lawley, oh my God, literally, I kid you not, I finished this book and I found her Instagram. And I was like, this is such an amazing book, but I will never, ever forgive you for writing this. Also, when's your next book coming out? Because I want it. I would say this is, for a thriller, 5 stars. I rate a lot of books 5 stars. This is just because I don't think a book necessarily has to be life-changing to be 5 stars. This is well written. I was intrigued. I love the ending. I love the storyline. I would reread this book for sure. I thought this was a great book. Okay, we're getting into Holly Jackson. I'm actually going to move all these back to back. So this was the 4th Holly Jackson book I read. I think she has maybe 6. This was the reappearance of Rachel Price. Once again, this kind of had a slower start, but the ending, crazy. This was a plot twist. If you want a plot twist, this is for you. I didn't expect it. Nothing led up to me thinking this in the slightest. And I think that this kind of deemed an unlikable main character. I think a lot of books have the issue, not an issue, but where the main character's oh, perfect, has never made a mistake, you don't see any flaws. This main character had, an attitude, a bad one. She was so annoyed, she had the worst attitude, and honestly, I would be too, and I love, voice cracks so bad just there. No, but this I would say it was 4 stars. I don't know. Just compared to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, which is the first 3 books by Holly Jackson I read, this was an amazing book, but I don't think anything is going to live up to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. 4 stars, great book. I'm actually, you know what, I'm going to put the books I wouldn't recommend over here and the books I do over here. So far we have 2 5-star reads and a 4-star read. I would recommend to read all of these. They're great. Okay, we have A Good Girl's Bad Blood and As Good as Dead. I'm gonna say these are the 1st and 3rd books I read this summer. By the way, I have not been consistently reading for 9 years. I think I read more books in this month than I have in the past 6 years, which is really embarrassing, but one of my goals in life is to be well read, so you have to start somewhere. It's fine. As Good as Dead, no, this is Good Girl Bad Blood, great. My only notes on this book in particular is her friends had a lot bigger plot point and a lot more time in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, the first book, than they did in this one. But I didn't mind it because obviously the second book was focused a lot more on her, and this is kind of where things start to take a turn and get a little darker, and she's messed up in the head. She's traumatized. So I understand why her internal monologue wasn't so much about her friends and just so much of, oh my God, what is happening? But no, I think this was a really great representation of insomnia, anxiety, and stressors in life. Once again, I wouldn't say this is 5 stars. I would say this is 4.5. Amazing book. Once again, love it. I love Holly Jackson. I think she's an amazing writer. I would recommend, for sure. Which leads us to As Good as Dead. Once again, I would say this is a 5-star read. I don't like it as much as the first one, just because the original holds like such a special place in my heart. I love that book so much. I think it feels nostalgic. Even though it's not an old book, it feels nostalgic to me. But this one, once I got to the second part of this book, oh my god, I was stressed. This is another book that bypassed my anxiety medicine. And very well done too. I love that her writing style follows the characters. So in the second half, she's frantic, she's stressed, she's overwhelmed, she's hyped up on adrenaline, and you see the chapters kind of get choppier, shorter. The sentences are faster paced, if that makes sense. That doesn't make sense, but in my mind it does. Plot twist, crazy. Once again, plot twist done well. This isn't even a plot twist. I'm sorry. You know what? Maybe I do hate this book. Maybe this is 2 stars. The more I talk about other books that I like truly love and appreciate, the more I can't stand We Were Liars. No, oh my god, in the ending of this book, the text message, don't get me started. I am not one to read romance books, but I will eat up a romance subplot. And this will forever be one of my favorite couples. I think they're so amazing. I think this is so well written. And I love that once they did get together and start dating, at the end of the first book, where they're actually, the first time we really see them together is the second book, like as a couple, where it doesn't overwhelm the story. This, like, it didn't turn into a romance. It stayed with the mystery. It stayed with the thriller. The fact that she was able to make every single book have a crazy plot twist that you wouldn't really expect, remarkable. Like, and also this feels like the perspective of a teenage girl. It doesn't seem like it was written from an adult's point of view, which I love. So we have another recap. Where are they? 3 5 stars, 2 4 stars, and then over here a 2 star and a 3 star. Okay, The Girl Who Knew Too Much. I have mixed feelings on this one. On one hand, I was a lot more hooked and intrigued than how I was with We Were Liars. I was hooked this whole book. I think I read this in a day and a half at most. I definitely binge read this. I was disappointed in the ending. I mean, it was amazing. We're gonna take a detour. Pause. Commercial break. Okay, we're back. I don't know why my TV randomly started playing. We're choosing to ignore that. Okay, but The Girl Who Knew Too Much. I mean, I was hooked this whole book. I was intrigued. I was a little disappointed in this ending. To me, the ending felt very rushed. It was like there was so much buildup, and it was like, okay, end. We're done. Book's over. So that would be my only note. I would rate this 3.5 stars, maybe 4 on a good day. But it's not a book I see myself rereading, and I don't really see myself recommending it to people just because the ending felt really rushed. So we're gonna put this in the stack. It is a good book nonetheless. I mean, the first, like, I was really intrigued the entire time until I got to the end. But with a mystery and thriller, which I read a lot of, the end is where, like, you should not be able to put the book down. I got to the end, I was like, okay, I'll finish it later. Okay. Another mystery thriller. One of Us is Next. Karen M. McManus. McManus? I don't know. So I actually read One of Us is Lying, which is the first book to the series. It's a trilogy. I read the first book 5 years ago, and it was amazing. I went to Barnes & Noble, where it had like a sign in front of it, and it was like, employees pick, you will not put this book down. So I bought it, and guess what? I didn't put the book down. I read it, and I think like one day. It was great. I loved the character. Okay, I'm reviewing a book that I didn't even read this month, but it ties into it. The character development, insane. Like, it really felt like teenagers developing. It was character development. I mean, maybe that's why I didn't love this book as much, is because I'm like really attached to the characters of One of Us is Lying, and One of Us is Next is a completely different set of characters with a similar vibe. But once again, I was bored. I would rate this 3 stars. First, One of Us is Lying was 5. This is 3. I don't know. I mean, like, the whole plot of, like, oh, the text messages and the intrigue, like, the kind of, like, stressful part that we had in the first book was kind of lost here. They got text messages for, like, 2 chapters. And then the character that died, I can't even remember his name because he wasn't a part of the plot to me. Like, I feel like we heard his name once and it was like, oh, he's dead. And that was the only death in the story. I mean, there was only one death and One of Us is Lying. But it affected the entire plot. Like, he was literally haunting the narrative. And this is like, oh, we got messages at the beginning of the book. And then the book is like, oh, someone died. Oh, ending. So I don't know. I was really disappointed in this book. I'm still gonna read the third book in the trilogy, which I think is One of Us is Back. But I don't know. I think One of Us is Lying should have been a standalone. I mean, the writing's great. There wasn't any character development. I wasn't big on the characters. They were all boring to me. This was just a bore to read. Like, the first book, I was like, I can't put this down. I don't want to sleep. I don't want to eat. I don't want to do anything but read this book. And this one, I was like, okay, we're almost through it. We're almost done. So, but when I read a mystery or thriller, like, that's how I want to be. I want to be like, oh my god, I cannot wait to finish this book. And this one, I was like, oh, it's a book. So, we're gonna put it over here. Once again, none of these books are... Okay, we're back, part 3. My phone died. I should really refilm this video with how many technical difficulties we're having, but I'm not going to. So we're gonna finish these last 2 books that I read this month. These are the only 2 books I think I read that weren't like a thriller or mystery. Oh, I lied. Let Us Descend. I said that... Where'd it go? I don't know where it went. Here it is. I said that The Perks of Being a Wallflower was the last book I read this month. That was a lie. It was Let Us Descend by Jesmyn Ward. This book, a lot of people say they're like, oh, this is going to be a classic, and it is. I 10,000% agree that one day this is going to be a classic. It was amazing. I thought it was a great book. Once again, I read it in one day. I did have not a hard time reading. Okay. I had a hard time staying engaged with this book. I think that one day, maybe in a year or 2, when I'm a little bit better at critical analysis and analyzing my book and finding a deeper meaning, I'm definitely going to reread this, because I feel like as much... I don't even know what to say about this book. As much as it was an amazing book right now when I read it, I think in a couple years when I'm a little bit smarter, a little bit more well-read, and I can analyze things a little bit deeper, this is going to be 10 times better. Even with that, I would rate it 5 stars right now. Even with me knowing that I missed like so many like deeper meanings and important issues, I would still rate this 5 stars. I think everyone should read this book. Amazing. Once again, no notes. I loved it. And our final book of the month, I think I read this. This was probably like 4th or 5th book that I read this month. Don't Think, Dear. This is supposed to be a memoir on loving and leaving ballet, and I thought it was amazing. But I am going to give it 4 stars because I feel like the last 10 pages, that was a memoir on loving and leaving ballet. The rest of the book, I would say, was a memoir on George Balanchine and how men control women in ballet and how detrimental men treat women in ballet and how bad it is for them. Which was amazing, and I loved it and I enjoyed the book, but I don't think it should be titled a memoir. Like, it says somewhere, yeah, on loving and leaving ballet on the cover, when that's only the last 10 pages. And I would have loved to hear more about her perspective and her time in dance. And I loved the stories of her in dance and her friends in dance and what they went through and how they processed leaving. But that was really only the very beginning or the very end of the book. Meanwhile, the bulk of the book was about how badly men treat women in ballet, especially choreographers and George Balanchine. So this was an amazing book. I think I'll reread this at some point, but it's not going to be for a couple of years just because I don't think I see a point in it. The last 10 pages though, like there are so many quotes in these last couple pages that I just like resonate so deeply with. Nonetheless, I think this is a great book and you should read it. And I would love to see this was written by Alice Robb. She has a couple other books out that I think I'm going to get, but I would have loved for it to be an actual memoir on loving and leaving ballet rather than men in ballet, you know? Something more personal. So let's recap. 5 stars, amazing, no notes. I just wish I could have understood it a little bit deeper. 4 stars. I wish it was more about her experience and her friend's experience in leaving ballet. 5 stars, no notes, gave me anxiety for both of these. As Good as Dead and What We Did to Survive gave me genuine anxiety, had me stressed out. The amount of times I slammed these books down and had to walk away because I was so overwhelmed. 5 stars, 10 out of 10 would recommend, no notes. The Reprints of Rachel Price, love the characters. Plot twist I would have never expected, but it's just, I don't think any other book that she writes is going to live up to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I think those are the best books she's ever written. Let me read the rest of them this month, the month of July, and I'll let you know. 4 stars just because I'm biased towards A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. 4 stars because, what did I say this was because? I don't know. It's just, it wasn't as good as the other 2 books. There was just something about it. I think it was a great representation of anxiety and insomnia and depression, but there was something lackluster. There was something missing. 5 stars, no notes. I don't need to elaborate on this further. I don't want to talk about this book anymore. So sad. If you want a sad book, this is great. I wouldn't reread it though. Okay, I finally figured out what the issue is. Their trauma felt so surface level. Like, okay, they all have like such detrimental lives, but it's also like, that's it. They don't have any other character outside of having a bad home life, but you also don't really learn that much about their home life. So 3 stars. I wouldn't really read it again, but I would recommend it if someone wanted a sad book. Great until the end. The one part of a mystery that's supposed to be so chaotic and hectic and intriguing, boring. I'm sorry. 3.5 stars because I'm feeling generous today. Okay, now this book's kind of irritating me too because I kind of was bad. Now that I really think about it, I didn't like it. Maybe One of Us is Lying should have been standalone, but I'm still gonna read One of Us is Back because I loved One of Us is Lying too much not to finish the trilogy. So that is all of the books I read this month. I don't really have anything else to say, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for my next one.